In the last episode, a combined force of British and Russian Imperial naval ships were trying to ambush a German convoy in the North Sea, thinking that after they've seen our 3 battleships in the Baltics, that most of our forces were there. What turned out was that the force in the North Sea that we'd left behind, 2 Derfflinger-class battle cruisers and 2 Nassau-class battleships, were more than a match for the British, and we did get somewhat lucky, but we have managed to sink 2 of their battle cruisers. They have gone off in flames quite quickly, which means that with the loss of 2 light cruisers, the Russians only now have 1 light cruiser and 2 destroyers left inside Kronstadt, as well as 3 battleships, and this is the remainder of their Baltic fleet. So we're moving the fleet that we have currently active in the Baltic closer towards Kronstadt to see if we can intercept them. Italy has joined the British and the Russian Empire in the war and has declared war on Austria-Hungary. This means that we are probably now alone, well, with our allies, against most of the European empires surrounding us, and we'll be having to fight with Italy as well pretty soon. At the same time, Austria-Hungary and Spain have gone to war as well, and that does not bode well for us, because by the looks of it, we are now going to have to deal with a relatively large group of enemies. However, the Austro-Hungarians have managed to push back the Russian Empire's invasion force, who have taken terrific losses fighting in Hungary. Meanwhile, the British are now launching a major offensive, and I'm not actually entirely sure where. I'm gonna have to find it. Sounds like somewhere in Asia. The Austro-Hungarians are starting to push into Bohemia against the Russian Empire, and the German Empire has now initiated a major offensive from Cameroon against the British. I would say that the First World War truly has begun a little early. So after the defeat of the Russian troops on the border to Hungary, the Austro-Hungarians are now sending 200,000 forces into Poland. They are still joined by the major offensive that we're launching from western Poland as well as from the north, and we are making some progress into eastern Poland here. At the same time, the combined British-Russian force from the Gold Coast has so far not advanced and is taking some losses trying to get into Togo. And we have launched an offensive against the British in Nigeria as well. And it looks like that the British have managed to get concessions from the Chinese to move their troops through their territory, because they are trying to assault us in Tsingtao. But they are under strength and outnumbered, so I don't have an awful lot of problems with that right now. The bigger problem is that we are now at war with the British, the Russians, and potentially the Italians and the Japanese at the same time. Fortunately for us, the Americans so far are staying out of the war, but we have currently 6 battleships that we can work with, versus, if we're summing this up, the Russians have 6 as well, and the British have 13 battleships. And if we're adding the Italians, that will bring 2 battleships and 3 battle cruisers. And Japan itself, where were they here, brings another 6 capital ships, plus a bunch of light cruisers, heavy cruisers, and everything else. So we are certainly vastly outnumbered. A British force of 5 battleships, 1 battle cruiser, 6 heavy cruisers, 2 light cruisers, and 1 destroyer have made their way into the Baltics. And at the same time, the Russians seem to have retreated further towards Kronstadt. So, given that we're probably not big enough yet to engage the British, we will actually move potentially into the minefields around Kronstadt. But we will see if we can. Come on. Okay, let's see if we can manage to move a little. Yeah, I don't want to necessarily move into the minefields. So we'll move just outside and see if we can catch these on the run. A slight side theater is a convoy. And I'm not sure if we're defending or if we're raiding, but it's one of our battleships and one of our destroyers versus a heavy cruiser and 2 light cruisers. I think that's a fight we can take. And the first engagement with the British in the Baltics, who have managed to get through the Denmark Strait and cause us some trouble. Unfortunately, it's once again the Nassau that needs to actually intercept, because the rest of the fleet is busy elsewhere. And it is a defense, so it looks like the Hawk, the Novik, and the patrol have detached themselves from the main battle fleet of the British and are trying to intercept one of our convoys, and we need to protect it. And Nassau is the one who is ready to do so. With the transport turning to disengage, it is and the threat from the threat in the north, it is up to Nassau to deal with it, and I think she should be capable of doing so. The biggest problem is that she is relatively slow, which means we're going to use the V-27 mainly for scouting purposes once again, and trying to find her something to shoot at. Our destroyer has spotted the British heavy cruiser, and Nassau is getting ready to engage. And it looks like the British are actually running for it, which is probably wise. But we will keep V-27 in the area and see if we can get Nassau to. She's not going to be able to catch these, most likely. I mean, we don't know yet how fast they go because we're still identifying. But we'll see if she can. We'll see if she can start opening up. Don't know exactly what the range is on the 280 mils, but I think they're outside effective range at this point still. And if they decide that they want to run, I don't think there's an awful lot we can do about it. But again, we'll keep V-27 in the area just to keep them spotted. And if they want to give battle, then we will. Otherwise, there's not. Otherwise, if they run away from the transports, then that's also mission accomplished. And it looks like at least the heavy cruiser is getting ready to engage, or maybe they have lost sight of Nassau. But V-27 is keeping them spotted from within the smoke, and Nassau obviously is still pretty far ahead, but is getting ready to engage. Let's see if we can get more guns on target. We might be able to get a torpedo drop off from V-27, but I think she already launched her first torpedo salvo for now, that she's just going to be on spotting duty, and we'll see if Nassau can make anything happen. Unfortunately, Nassau's accuracy at this range is not the greatest. Which one of these is actually coming in? The light cruiser. Okay, so maybe we'll switch target to the Novik and see if we can do something about that, while we are just circling the enemy and throwing some torpedoes in their general direction from V-27. Did manage to get a partial pen. We're getting a couple of hits in from the 105mm guns on the destroyer, but it's not the 105mm gun. I think these things only have one. It's not doing an awful lot in general terms. So definitely, if they will need to close in for us to become effective. Oh, we've got another target spotted. What was that? That was another light. Was it another light cruiser? I think that's another light cruiser. So definitely be careful here with V-27 that she does not get into trouble here. Oh no, actually, this was one of the more modern. Was this one of the more modern ones? This is one of the more modern V classes. I think she's actually quite capable with her guns by herself, honestly. But we still don't want to get into a shooting fight with the light cruisers, so we're just going to kite away and see if we can get Nassau to intercept. Okay, so the Novik does 24 knots, the Hawk does 25, and whatever that is, we're still figuring that out. But we will probably, now that our smoke screen's expired, try to turn and see if we can bait them to get closer to Nassau and see if if that old pre-dreadnought can make something happen here. And just make sure that the destroyer doesn't get hit. It looks like these two are actually running in for a collision. Yep. Say that was a miscommunication, probably, between these two warships. That's going to cause some flooding. So even without Nassau hitting, that might actually do something. But yeah, we do need to get out of here. Let's see if any one of them is flooding. I think... no, I think they got away scot-free pretty much. So it seems like they were slow enough that this did not cause an awful lot of problems. The secondaries on Nassau actually managed to score some hits now. But the main guns are still trying to find their range and actually do something about these cruisers here, because yeah, we're still overshooting. And V-27 is just going to try and, well, disengage. Once the torpedoes are reloaded, we might get another torpedo drop off. But for now, I'm just happy sailing away and see if we can get Nassau a little closer and get her to bring more guns to bear. Nassau is still working on a solution for the main guns, but the 105mm secondaries from the refit actually have a better chance of hitting at this point. They're definitely giving chase to the V-27, but the destroyer is significantly faster, and it looks like that unidentified cruiser might be breaking off. So if they decide to do so and engage Nassau at closer ranges, then that would be good. Because the 105s are not seem to be doing an awful lot by themselves. We would have to get hits on target with the 280mm. And we're just gonna keep V-27 circling around and see. She's almost got her torpedoes reloaded, so we can drop a couple more torpedoes in their general direction. But I'm not sure who they're actually engaging at this point. These things also have torpedoes, so Nassau does need to be a little bit careful, because she's not the most maneuverable of ships. We will probably turn slightly here, just in case that they are firing torpedoes off. Yeah, they're most likely going for a torpedo run. Of course, the turn is going to start throwing our aim off, but we might be able to get more of the 280mm turrets on target, and that might give us a better chance of hitting. And V-27 is almost reloaded, so we might be able to get another torpedo drop off in a minute here and hopefully change their course a little bit, but we do have to be careful not to hit Nassau actually. So it looks like these light cruisers might be going in for a torpedo run. We'll just keep an eye out if we spot any torpedoes in the water, if we can manage to see them launching. But we so far have only managed to do a couple of grazing hits with the 105mm. There we have a good hit on the Novik. That has blown up something significant. She is on fire. So I think that I'm not sure where that hit was coming in, but that looked pretty significant. We do need to turn away, however, now, because they might be launching torpedoes. Actually, in fact, the patrol has already launched torpedoes, so we do need to do a hard turn here with Nassau to avoid incoming torpedoes while she's raking them with the secondary guns. And we have the V-27 can actually deploy smoke and do a turn here to avoid the incoming torpedoes. And I hope Nassau can make that as well. She is starting to have some internal fires, but another great hit here on the patrol. And yeah, if these 280mm can hit, these light cruisers are in a world of pain. So I think we have managed to evade the torpedoes. V-27 has changed her course. She has launched torpedoes herself. I'm not quite sure what became of them, but I don't have high hopes there for her hitting a light cruiser. We're going to perform a full turn with Nassau. And because I think Novik hasn't launched torpedoes yet, so we'll try and see if we can get another. That was a good over penetration. It's still on the aft. Yeah, if these 280 mils can hit, and yeah, Novik's now flooding. If the 280 mils can hit, then they're devastating against light cruisers. Patrol actually has her citadel flooded and has lost engine power, so it might actually be a better choice to focus fire onto patrol right now. And it looks like Novik has launched torpedoes at the V27, which means we do need to drop speed and perform a hard turn here, because we don't want to turn in, because then we would end up running into, well, basically giving Novik a broadside. Let's make sure that I think we can actually outrun this torpedo. Yeah, V27 is starting to take some fire, but nothing serious at this point. And I think she has managed to outrun the torpedo without too much trouble. So again, we'll keep her around to maintain the spotting. But I think Nassau, yeah, patrol is already sinking, which means Nassau can complete the turn and finish off the Novik, which I think now has lost steering power and is already taking on significant amounts of water. So once Nassau gets close enough to get the guns effectively on target, then yeah, she's gonna rip this thing to pieces, basically. Okay, V27 can turn around and keep the heavy cruiser spotted, while Nassau is completing the turn and is going to try to finish off Novik, as well as closing the range towards the heavy cruiser. And yeah, she's lost her bridge, and she's just getting hammered here. Mostly we're even over penetrating, but that still creates relatively large holes in the ship. That was an engine penetration, and the Novik is done for. So that's that, which means Nassau can now start working on a solution for Hawk, who is, by the looks of it, running away. So we will see if we can somewhat intercept. We're going to get the V27 to go chase her and see if we can still catch that one. But yeah, these two light cruisers thought they might be able to get a torpedo run off at Nassau, but that wasn't happening. Let's see if we can catch the heavy cruiser as well. The Hawk is maneuvering furiously after watching the display of what happened to her two light cruiser screens, and is trying to throw off the guns of Nassau. At this range, they're not particularly effective, so unless we're landing a lucky hit and take out her engines, I don't think we can catch up to this cruiser. One of Nassau's 280mm shells, armor-piercing, has managed a lucky hit towards the rear and has blown a significant hole in the hull of the Hawk. That should slow her somewhat down and hopefully get Nassau the chance to close in to finish her off. V27 meanwhile is bravely assaulting the cruiser with her 105mm guns as well. And Nassau is still trying to close in, but the Hawk is actually taking on a significant amount of water through that hole in the rear. So what is she still able to make? Can't see. There we go. She can do 20. She can still do 25 knots, but she has taken on quite a amount of water, and the V27 is closing in. She's out of torpedoes, but she can still use her guns to try and set some fires. And while the Hawk is still faster than Nassau, all Nassau has to get is a lucky hit, and that would be the end of this ship, because she is definitely flooding, and she might even actually flood out. Honestly, we'll see if that was enough damage, because the whole rear compartment is flooded. They do have a good amount of bulkheads, but that one hit seems to have caused her quite some amount of problems. And she's still flooding. It looks like the watertight compartments aren't quite holding. So we might still be able to get her, to be honest. Oh, that was another good hit. An aft belt penetration from a second aft belt penetration from the Nassau, pretty much in the same spot. And the crews seem to be getting the flooding there under control, but one more hit somewhere else in the ship, and I think she'll be done for. She's still able to do 25 knots, which is quite surprising to me, with that amount of damage. But V-27 is peppering her with small caliber gunfire, and is making good use of her gun turrets despite torpedo launch. Okay, careful there. We do not want to run into enemy torpedoes, but I don't think V-27 is going to have trouble avoiding that torpedo. Might be down, but not yet out, that cruiser. And all we're going to need is one or two more good hits from Nassau. We're still in... Yeah, we're still on a decent course. And V-27 now can lay smoke again. And just see if she can get a couple more fires or something started with her relatively small guns. But she's got plenty of them, so we do even do partial penetrations and... with the HE on that heavy cruiser. She's lost rudder control. Another penetration in the aft belt. Surely that's... I mean, we're blowing off half of the ship here, but surely that should be the end of her soon. We just have to hit her somewhere in the forward area, and that she takes on water in the forward compartments. But another fire set. And we do have to be careful that we're not giving nice flat broadside to this cruiser. Just steer away. She does have torpedoes on the other side, so it's going to get turned around already. Peppering her with the 100. And at this range, even the 105mm can do some damage. She's starting to have the decks awash, so one more good hit maybe. One more good hit from Nassau would do it. And there we have a 4-belt over penetration. That's flooding the forward compartments, and I think that's going to be it for her. We can get V-27 back on target, but I think with that forward belt penetration that we've managed to get in, she probably should be going down pretty soon. Yeah, the forward compartments are flooding. I don't think she's going to have a chance to survive that. And it's confirmed, the Hawk is sinking due to having heavy flooding. And that should be this group dealt with. So yet another instance of a combined Russian-British force that was trying to intercept our transports. And surprisingly, the old pre-dreadnoughts are still quite effective when it comes to dealing with this kind of armored cruisers and similar things. There's significant losses for the British once more.